Good morning, everyone. We're glad you're here. We're just going to give it a minute while people are joining the webinar. Oh, good. The chat's working. Good morning. Okay, welcome to the Kentucky Harm Reduction and Recovery Community of Practice webinar series presented by Voices of Hope and the University of Kentucky College of Nursing. My name is Brooke West. I am a person in recovery and the training coordinator at Voices of Hope in Lexington, Kentucky. The goal of a community of practice is to bring together a group to engage in training, share best practices, and network around a common interest. Today, the topic of our community of practice is a harm reduction approach for families, presented as a conversation between Jessica Blanchard, founder of 229 Safer Living Access, and Voices of Hope co-founder, Dr. Alex Elswick. Later, we'll have another guest join the conversation about families integrating harm reduction, and that guest is Alex's mom, Voices of Hope President and CEO, Shelley Elswick. First, let me introduce Jessica Blanchard, also known as Jessie B. She is the founder of 229 Safer Living Access, Inc., a mobile access service in Southwest Georgia. Jessie B. is a registered nurse with a master's in nursing education, having worked mostly in emergency and correctional nursing. She is also an adjunct instructor in the healthcare science programs at the local community college. Jessie B. is the mother of a 25-year-old daughter, currently 29 months abstinent from IV substance use. After fracturing the relationship with her daughter with tough love, Jessie B. unknowingly began using harm reduction techniques to reestablish the relationship with KB. This led Jessie to organically developing her county's only safer use/safer sex supply organization, where she and one volunteer serve approximately 300 people each week, with many of the supplies being purchased out of her own pocket. We're so excited to have Jessie B. with us today. And guiding today's conversation is Dr. Alex Elswick, who is a tireless advocate for people with substance use disorders. He currently serves the University of Kentucky as an assistant professor and extension specialist for substance use prevention and recovery. Alex is a trained researcher, recovery coach, and mental health therapist, as well as the co-founder of Voices of Hope, a peer-driven recovery community organization. But most importantly, Alex is himself a person in long-term recovery from the chronic disease of addiction. A couple of housekeeping notes before we begin. If you are a peer support specialist interested in continuing education credit for this webinar, you will need to complete a survey that we will place in the chat toward the end of the session. So stick around, keep an eye on the chat toward the end of the session for that link. And we have the chat feature on, as most of you have discovered this morning. So you can participate during the webinar and ask questions. We encourage your participation. So first we'll hear from Jessie and Alex, and a little later, Shelley will join the conversation. I'll turn it over to you, Alex.
All right. Thank you so much, Brooke. Good morning, everybody. Hope you got your coffee with you, got your caffeine, you're ready to go. Always our goal with the webinars in the community of practice is to make sure that it's a really valuable use of your time. I know that everybody made choices this morning and you could be doing something else with your 90 minutes. And so our hope is that at the end of this, you say that was really valuable and meaningful. And it's especially true of today. I can't think of a more meaningful topic than what we're here to discuss. Early in my recovery experience, before I became an assistant professor, before graduate school, even before we formed Voices of Hope, one of the very few things, and I do mean very few things, that I did right was that I recovered out loud. And I was just honest and a little bit shameless, whatever that means. And as a consequence, many people in our community, hurting families, would come forward and say, my daughter, my son, my uncle, my brother, someone I love is struggling with an opioid use disorder, and how do we help? And more often than not, the question was, how do we get them to treatment, or how do we get them to stop? And at the time in 2014, resources to support families were scarce, to say the least. They're scarce today, but they were certainly scarce in 2014. And one of the very few resources that was available to families is Al-Anon, the companion program to Alcoholics Anonymous. And to be certain, Al-Anon has been a source of support for millions and millions of family members, but that's not the focus of our conversation today. Today, our conversation is about the millions and millions of people for whom an approach like Al Anon hasn't helped. People and families who have tried in earnest, time and time again, abstinence based approaches to find that it's not working for them and their families. And they reach a crossroads where they say, well, what are we to do now? And that's why I am so grateful that today we have joining us Jessie B, who has considerable experience when it comes to this intersection of harm reduction and families. And so, Jessie, first, just I want to say good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank y'all for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Always such a good conversation.
I'm really glad you could be here. And just want to say from the start, before I forget, we always give sort of a platitude of a thank you to speakers, but I really want to say thank you for your vulnerability. Part of what we're doing today and going back through your experience is talking through things that maybe you feel like you did right, or maybe you feel like you could have done better or done differently. And that's really not easy. So thank you for your willingness to do that.
Absolutely.
Before we jump into centering this whole conversation around, we call your daughter KB, right?
Yep.
Before we jump into this conversation, centering everything around KB as a person who uses drugs, will you just start by telling me a little bit about who she is?
Oh, she's the most magnificent creature I've ever met. Uh, um, she's beautiful. She's kind. She's compassionate. She's a sharer. She's a giver. Um, I could not have hit my knees and prayed for a better, I don't know even what that means. She is the most perfect daughter for me. She loves animals, and she's so, people say, oh my goodness, I talked to your baby. She's so polite. Oh my gosh. You know what? I could spend the whole webinar talking about how amazing she is. She's 25 years old. Um, she is the absolute joy of my life.
She sounds incredible. And I'll just, on a personal note, just tell you that I have an 8, almost 9-year-old and a 6-month-old. So I'm
Oh,
I'm learning that I think my kids are beautiful and special too, right?
they are.
They really are. And this is not only about KB, but it's also about you, Jessie B. So who are you?
I'm KB's mama. I'm KB's mama. I am a registered nurse. I'm an educator. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter whose own mother laid in the bathroom floor with me and helped me kick opiates back in '02. Um, so I get it. My mama's a nurse. She's an old school nurse. Um, I'm I'm a nature lover. I'm just I'm somebody that wants everybody to just be okay, whatever okay means to them.
And you had this beautiful daughter. And tell me a little bit about raising KB. How was her childhood?
Oh, it was a dream, Alex. Oh my gosh. We we did not have everything we wanted, but she had everything she needed, and she got most everything she wanted. Um, Raising her was an absolute joy. She's my only child. Um, she was my buddy, my road dog. We did the things together. Anything, I never. Yeah, her daddy died when she was 10. He had a sudden cardiac arrest and died. But she they weren't incredibly close, And I'm sure that impacted her in some ways, but she would say that was not a breaking point or a cracking point for her that it would have been for other people. But raising her was a dream. We did trips, we did the things together. She danced, she went to school. She had I didn't too much let her go spend the night with people, but there was constantly kids in my house spending the night, going swimming. Oh, we had a good time. It was so good.
So she had a great childhood. You mentioned
Yes.
maybe some trauma at the age of 10, but that wasn't for her a breaking point. What was a breaking point for KB?
When KB was 15, she met a boy who was 18. And it's amazing. We can raise our children. We can teach them all the things. They know they can come to us, and if they murdered somebody, they know they can come tell us, and we just say, what do we need? A shovel, lime? What are we doing here? Why she couldn't, wouldn't come tell me that she had started having sex, I don't know. But she got pregnant when she was 15. And that was, of course, that's a before this and after this moment, but it was a before this and after this moment in major ways across the board.
Mm-hmm. And when did you first discover that KB was having a problem?
Now, that wasn't until she was 18. And I had custody of the baby. She was in a relationship with the baby's daddy. He does not use substances, doesn't even drink beer, doesn't even smoke cigarettes. But he was raised in an unstable home, so things were kind of volatile between the two of them. And she would leave the baby with me a lot, which was welcomed, of course. It was fine. And so I told her one day, I said, if something happens to you, this baby's going to go to the state because, his daddy didn't legitimize him. Here in Georgia, that at the time, they didn't do legitimization in the hospital in 2016 here. You had to still go do the steps yourself. And they didn't do that. So she said, yeah, you're right. And she signed him over to me. Signing little Jessie, that's little Jessie's his name. Signing little Jessie over to me was the best thing she could have done for him. But that gave her the freedom her life needed to spiral out of control.
And so, as I just said, I have a 5-month-old, so I'm in the throes of that stress, and I'm a 34-year-old adult. I cannot imagine being that age and trying to cope with that stress. And so at some point you discovered that KB had turned to using opioids as a way to cope.
She met another boy, and me and her were not having a good time. We were fussing about the baby and fussing about, you need to get out you need to come home and raise your kid. Yeah, because I'll be 52 this year, so math that back, 2016, and she met a boy, and this boy told her that he had something for her that would feel warmer than any hug she had ever gotten from me. And he injected her with her consent with heroin for the first time. And it was for her, it was in that moment, it was everything she needed. It was everything she wanted in that moment. I couldn't compete with that. It didn't fuss. It didn't tell her she needed to live her life differently. It didn't tell her she needed to come home. It just wrapped her in this warm, fuzzy blanket. And that was what she needed. But I didn't know that then.
That's powerful. I just wanted to sit with that for a second. That's powerful. What was it like for you, just to learn that she was injecting opioids? I mean,
Well, I can tell this story now because he's retired and everything's good. I learned she was injecting opioids when my dear friend Dickie called me. He said, Blanchard. I said, yeah. He said, I just had to resuscitate your kid. I said, not my kid. I said, I don't know whose kids you're talking about. He said, yeah. He said, it's your kid. He said, Kaylin Brooks Singleton, 213-2000. Dang, that is my kid. He said, if that were my kid, I would want to know. That's how I found out. Paramedic calling me to tell me that he had resuscitated.
what's going through your mind when you receive that kind of news?
Well, I mean, I reacted. I don't know. I've never lost a child, but I felt like I had in that, like I think I would feel. I'm not gonna say, but I felt like he had told me that she was gone. Like that was a death sentence, right? That's the nails in the coffin, right? Okay, well, I know she's gonna overdose and die now, so I can go on and just start getting prepared for that. I was frantic to locate her. I had to see her. I had to put my hands on her. I had to get her in my Jeep and get her home. That was all. That was all I was focused on doing. I'm going to find her. I'm going to get her in this Jeep and I'm going to bring her home. I'd have sooner caught a rabid squirrel than tried to do that, because what was I going to do with her when I got her here?
So to that point, what are some of the things you tried to do in the beginning? I mean, and just for context, for anybody who isn't a family member, what an incredibly precarious time when you're desperate for an anchor and you're desperate for a way forward. What are some of the things that you tried to do to get her to stop, or to try to help her, whatever that looked like?
Oh, obviously she needed to stop using drugs. She needed to go back to school. She needed to come home. She needed to quit messing with this boy. She needed to. And everything that I saw that she needed to do, I was constantly shoving it down her throat every opportunity that I had. She several times wanted to go to rehab. So, over the course of the time, I drained my savings, putting her in facilities. All she was doing was shutting me up. That's all she was doing, was pacifying me. And it was my dime, so she didn't care. Right. But what she was doing was just doing a spin cycle, really. What I learned was, when she started running out of, she had burned through people, she had burned through her resources, maybe her dope man was locked up or whatever the situation was, she was going to go to rehab, right? And I'd get so excited. Oh, I'm so excited. This is what we're going to do. And she would do it long enough for me to be, I just stepped on my own toes. She would do it long enough for me to remind her of how proud I was of her and how much I loved her. And then she would get out and go back. Man, that just hit me in that moment, Alex. She would go to rehab long enough to hear me tell her how proud I was of her. And then she would get out and start it again. Wow. Sit with that one.
And when she's going to treatment, do you have that guarded optimism each time? Like this is going to be it. This is going to be different, or?
Oh no, my baby said she was going to do it. She was going to do it. I was in 100. I was 10 toes down. This was going to work. I sat the most unreasonable expectations for her. She was failing going in the door. You hear me? Because I was just, this is going to be it. This is going to be it.
Because all she has to do is want it, right? All she
All
has
she
to
got,
do.
that's all she got to do is want it. That's all it's right here for her. Everything is right here on a silver platter. All she's got to do is walk up and take it, Alex.
So at the time when she's not, when your understanding is that it's right there on a silver platter and all she's got to do is walk up and take it, at the time, why are you thinking she's not taking it? Why is she not?
Because she hates me. Because she's willful. She's defiant. And she don't want to listen to her mama.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. That's why. Why is she torturing me? Why is she punishing me? What did I do to her to make her treat me like this? What did I ever do to her? What did this family ever do to her to cause her to be like this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you're trying treatments, you're dipping into your savings and your 401k and all that to try to get her treatment because like most parents, you're thinking if she'll just go to treatment, she'll just get well and she'll just be sober and then all will be well. But
That's right.
yeah, it's not happening. I want to read to you a quote that you've shared in the past and just kind of have you reflect on this, okay? You said, quote, when I was pushing abstinence, I would go weeks without hearing from her. I wouldn't even know if she was alive. But when I started valuing our relationship over any drug use, it changed. I showed her that I valued her over abstinence. I valued her over a GED. And when she saw how much I valued her, no matter what, we were able to start repairing the relationship that I had broken. That's a monumental shift from what we're talking about right now. So part of what I want to understand is how did you get there? I mean, to be honest, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds a bit like you got there through trial and error.
I did. We did. We got here through trial and error. And I am so thankful to whatever higher power there is in this universe that the universe gave me the time to keep making these mistakes and give me the time to get it right. Um, I wouldn't see my baby. I wouldn't hear from her. I am obsessed with my baby. I love her with my whole heart and your whole heart too. I love my baby so much. And I missed her. I missed talking to her. I missed hanging out with her. And I was missing all that stuff because when I was around her, I treated her like crap. I had to realize, Alex, that I was missing my baby because of me. Not because of her, not because of her drug use, not because of who she was running with, not because she dropped out of school and got pregnant. I was missing my baby because when I was with my baby, I was wearing her down. You hear me? I would not have wanted to be in my presence. Let me tell you, I'm 5'4", 125 pounds of pure. You're going to get your ass in this Jeep and you're going to come home. And she started ducking and dodging me. And then I'm like, why won't she see me? Why won't she talk to me? It didn't take me too terribly long to be like, I looked in the mirror and I said, because would you want to talk to you? Would you voluntarily sign up for a conversation with you right now, crazy lady? No, you wouldn't. But I ran up on her one day. I saw her. I used to ride. I'd ride an hour before work. I'd ride an hour and a half at lunch. And I'd ride an hour after work. That's 3.5 hours. I would ride Monday through Friday, 3.5 hours just to catch a glimpse of my baby walking down the road. I just wanted to see her. I wanted to visualize that she was alive. That's all I wanted. I saw her one day and I was so excited. Where's my baby? And I drove my Jeep across 5 lanes of traffic over a curb into a Krispy Kreme donut shop parking lot, and I jumped out and I ran up on her, and I was so excited. I was on my way to work and I was going to lecture, and it was like a real professional day, and I had on all white, my white nursing stuff, and oh my gosh, it was all good, right? I ran up on her and I meant to touch her on her shoulder. I'm 5'4", she's 5'9". And I meant to touch her on her shoulder, but what I did was I grabbed her, and she had her earbuds in, and she had been up all night partying, and she was still about 60% Kaylin. She was not quite with it yet. And when I grabbed her, she spun around and she hit me. She hit me right in my face. And being from Tennessee, I hit her back. And me and her fought. We fist fought. I just trashed. I fist fought my daughter at 7:10 a.m. in the Krispy Kreme parking lot in Albany, Georgia. She beat the brakes off of me. Do you hear me? But now she knew I was there when we were done. And she stood up and she screamed, "Mama, what the F do you want from me?" And I screamed back, "If you could just not die, that would be great." And in that moment, it hit me. I'm standing there bleeding. She's standing there bleeding. She has whooped me from one side to the other. But in that moment, my baby was alive. My baby was okay. She was okay. Now, she just took a whooping from her mama, but she was okay. What more did I really want than that? Nothing. In that moment, nothing. Nothing. My baby was alive for me to fight. And in that moment, it hit me. I said, "You got to do something different, Blanchard, or you're going to lose her. You got to do something. It feels like you've already lost her. You really don't lose her. You got to do something different." And that was when I said, "Well, all this that I've been doing, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. That's not been working. That's having the total opposite effect." Okay, so I'm a pretty smart girl. I've been to school. I've made it 50 years almost. Let's reverse Uno her behind, and let's see what happens. And so that's what I did, Alex, because I didn't know what else to do.
There are a lot of people in the chat right now just reflecting on similar experiences. And this is kind of the breaking point, I think, for so many families. When you come to the point where you've exhausted all your resources, all your money, all your time, all your internal resources, your energy and your stress, and all the things, and you're running on love and love alone. And you say, well, the options before us are an 18th inpatient treatment center, or we try something different. And I think, even though we don't have a clear, neat answer, I think there's just something so important and powerful about the experience that you're reflecting on, that that you've been to that breaking point, and that you were willing to say, "You know what? I think I'd better try something different." So can you talk about, in the beginning, what that's like? So before you start trying something different, or as you're about to make that change, you still have a head full of abstinence-based knowledge, right? Like, that's still your understanding. So how do you start to navigate this? How do you start working through it?
Yeah, because don't do drugs, deputy dog, I grew up with the DARE program. Like I said, I was born in 73. So DARE and deputy dog and all that kind of stuff. And, obviously the answer is just don't do drugs. Hello, Alex.
Sure.
Duh, right? Well, but you know what? But here was the thing. Now, by the time that she whooped up on me in that Krispy Kreme parking lot, my baby had overdosed 3 times, okay? So I said, okay, being KB's mama is going to get KB killed, because you're not mama and this child very good anymore. Like, you was a real good mama before this, but now you are not the mama she needs. I said, well, maybe she don't need a mama. Maybe that's not what she needs me to be. Maybe she needs me to be a friend. Maybe I don't know. But see, but the whole time now, all I'm doing is speculating, right? You hear what I'm doing. I ain't asked this youngin' yet what she needed from me. I'm just trying to do what I think is best. She's grown. She's grown. She's out here doing things that I certainly wasn't going to do and didn't want to do and didn't want her doing. But nonetheless, she was doing them and there wasn't a darn thing I could do about it. So she's overdosed 3 times. I'm a nurse. I'm a registered nurse, ER, corrections. I'm a nurse. So obviously we need to work on the what is the anti-dead formula for KB, because KB's not trying to be dead. But in my mind, I'm like, all right, well, KB's trying to be dead and I'm trying to not let KB be dead. So what do I need to do? I need to get naloxone. I need to get Narcan, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I start doing my research. I dig in. I find the Georgia Overdose Prevention, where somebody had lost their child, so they donate like millions of dollars worth of naloxone and Narcan every year. I call the lady and I'm like, hey, I need this. And she said, well, we don't have a Narcan distributor in South Georgia, period. Would you like to do it? And I'm like, what does it mean? She's like, you get access to $2 million worth of Narcan a year. I'm like, sign me up. Yesterday, sign me up. She signed me up. She sends me, I don't know, I must have got 200 Narcan kits, 400 doses of Narcan. In that Narcan shipment was cards for an overdose detection hotline that I no longer promote. I'm no longer with. We use Safe Spot. Okay, so this was another organization that pretty much fell through the cracks, but Safe Spot. We're gonna say I got for Safe Spot. I said, overdose detection, what is this? So I reached out and they're like, yeah, we put your phone number in this queue, and when people are using drugs alone, they'll call in, you get their address or phone number. If they become unresponsive, you call EMS and you get them some help. And I'm like, what kind of foolishness is this? Sit on the phone with somebody while they use drugs? And if they fall out, call EMS. And then I thought, all right, you said anti-dead, Jessie. You said anti-dead, Jessie. This is anti-dead, folks. So I said, sign me up. I said, I'll do it. Started taking my first calls that day. My only job was to get their name, their address, their phone numbers, had me on speakerphone, doors unlocked, you got the locks on. You're gonna tell me when you do your hit. I'm gonna stay here with you. You become unresponsive, I'm calling somebody. You don't become unresponsive, we hang up and you get to go live your life. You get to go live your life. Wow. Anti-dead. And then the people started calling, Alex. And you know what? These people were people like me and you and Brooke and Amanda and Shelley and everybody that's here listening. They were people who didn't want to die. And I thought, well, using drugs is not, like, that should not be a death sentence. Oh, you're using drugs. You don't deserve to live. That's dumb, right? You're grown. I mean, this ain't what I kicked opiates in 2002, but of course mine was different. Mine was prescription. I got a doctor. It was a whole thing, right? So I wasn't out buying on the street. So that made me morally superior at the time. But I started thinking about KB with every one of those phone calls. And I said, and I'm loving these people. Like, I'm listening to them. I'm asking them what their goals are. I'm telling them if they typically do 9 shots a day, but they only did 6 today, I'm telling them how freaking proud I am of them. And I'm like, now, why aren't you doing this with your own kid, dummy? These people call time and time again. They are the most vulnerable and raw with you as anybody they could ever be, because they're seeking connection. They're seeking acceptance. They want somebody to tell them, yeah, you do drugs, but big flipping deal. You're awesome and I love you and I'm so glad you're still here. Why aren't you doing this with your kid, Jessie? And I started doing it with my kid. I took her the naloxone. And when I took her the naloxone, I hugged her and I told her I loved her. If you need something, let me know. And then I took her some toiletries, took her favorite shampoo and a loofah and some mascara and some naloxone. And then I noticed their arms. I noticed her arms were a little raggedy. And I said, what's going on with these raggedy arms, girl? And she didn't say nothing. I said, tell me. I said, I already know you do drugs. I already know you use a needle. What's going on? Your mom, we can't get clean needles. I said, oh, the hell you can't. I said, we're in Georgia. Needles are legal here. At the pharmacist's discretion. I ordered needles off of Amazon. Yeah, that first box of needles I gave to her, I drove around the corner and puked down the side of my Jeep. I wanted my baby to be healthy. And I wanted my baby to be alive. At the time, I wanted her, because, dead people can't recover, right? Dead people can't do nothing. Dead people can't do anything. People have the right to do whatever is best for them, regardless of how I feel about it. I don't have to love what you do to love you. All right, you need needles. What else do you need? Alcohol pads, cookers. What's a cooker? What's a cotton? What's all this thing? What are all these things? Yeah, dead people can't recover. They can't do nothing. Dead people cannot do anything. Period. What do you need? Oh, sex work. Y'all need condoms and lube and dental dams. Okay. Well, our town's 80% Black. And I noticed that not a lot of Black and brown people here were using needles. So I got in my Jeep one Saturday and I went and got some hot dogs, some hamburgers, and a cooler. I got some beer, I got some water and some sodas, and I went and sat at the corner of Highland and Davis in my town. And I did that for 7 Saturdays in a row until I had about 20 or 30 people coming on those last 3 or 4 Saturdays. And I was able to say, what do y'all need? Like, I'm an old white lady. What do y'all like? And my daughter's a white girl, and I've got her and her little white homies hooked up. But what do you guys need? What do y'all need? And they told us. They told me what they needed, and I went and got that stuff. And then I started hearing this. I started hearing, wait, you're KB's mama, right? Wait, you're KB's. She told us about you. You got a good name. You got a good daughter. What you're doing for us, what you're doing for your baby. Ain't nobody ever loved me like this. And I started noticing Kaylin was calling me. Not just because she wanted something, but just to say she loved me sometimes. Hey, Mama, can I ride out and hang out with you today? Well, I'm going over to Meemaw's and we're going to be putting up tomatoes. You're welcome to come with me. I can come can tomatoes with me and my mama. And I told my mama, I said, you say one word. I said, you say one word, Helen. I said, I'll take you out in this yard. I said, and I'll whoop you myself. I said, don't you say a word about what she's doing. I said, she knows what she's doing and she feels bad enough about it. I said, she feels bad enough about it. I said, you make her feel bad. I said, I'm going to whoop you myself. We're from Tennessee, we fight. I figured if Kaylin could whoop me, I could whoop Helen. I wouldn't try to whoop Helen, but I digress. But that's what we did. So I decided in my mind, when Kaylin would call me and she would say, hey, and I'd stop her and I'd say, do you need to talk to Mama? I said, do you need to talk to your mama or do you need to talk to your nurse? Do you need to talk to your mama or do you need to talk to your community service provider? Who do you need to talk to right now, KB? Mm-hmm. Who do you need to talk to? And if she said she needed to talk to the nurse or the community service provider, when I tell you I learned how to turn Mama off in that moment. Now I might hang up and cry and scream and pitch a fit, but in that moment, she was any of the other 300 people in our program. She was just one of the 300 that I just loved because they were still friggin' alive.
Part of what I'm interested in is how KB responded initially as you started to change. So okay, now I'm buying naloxone, then I'm taking it a step further. I'm going to buy sterile syringes. And uh, I imagine this comes as a little bit of a shock to her in the beginning.
Oh, she didn't want to take the syringes. When I first offered them to her, she said, Mama, what are you doing? I said, I don't know. I said, but if you needed soap and shampoo, I said, I'd be getting that. I said, if you needed Band-Aids, I'd be getting that. I said, you need this, I'm getting this. I said, Kaylin, I don't know. I don't know. But I watched my baby try to sharpen a needle, a used needle on a brick one day. Watch that and tell me what it does to your soul. I said, oh no. Oh no. That was in that moment, that was when I learned that people are going to do what people are going to do, and they're going to do it no matter how, no matter what. This is what had, and I said, no, absolutely not. Absolutely. My baby, if my baby's going to be out here injecting drugs, my baby's going to be doing it right. You hear me? My baby's going to be doing it sterile. My baby's going to, if this is what you going to do, I ride a motorcycle, Alex.
Yep.
I ride an 883 hugger. I'm 5 foot 425 pounds. I ride an 883 hugger. Do you think that makes my mama happy? Do you think that makes Helen Tucker happy? No, it don't. It makes her want to crawl out of her skin. But I wear my gloves, and I wear my helmet, and I wear my goggles, and I wear my boots, and I wear my jeans, and if you're gonna be reckless, we're gonna be reckless as safely as we possibly can, because I can't control what you're doing.
I had the same thought, Jessie, as you said, people are going to do what they feel they need to do. And I was thinking about that even in the beginning of KB's story. Um, I don't know what her experience was being educated in Georgia, but I would probably guess that she got abstinence-based sex education, which is so similar to the way that we do abstinence-based drug education and abstinence-based prevention and treatment and recovery. And I always love to share that at some point in public health, we got wise and we were like, oh, no matter how much we try to scare kids away or harp on the consequences, some kids are going to have sex. And so we have to enable them to do it more safely. And it seems like the exact same conversation that we're having. You come to a realization, my daughter's injecting drugs, whether I like it or not. I can't deny it. I can't condemn it. I can't just dismiss it. At some point, I have to accept it as this uncomfortable reality, and I got to deal with it. So you're at the same time that you're sort of having this individual experience with KB, you're also kind of scaling up some of your efforts. When did that formalize into the founding of 229 SLA?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know when this happened or how this happened to me. I have no idea how my 52-year-old middle-aged white lady in Southwest Georgia is the founder of a harm reduction program. I have no idea how it happened, or when it happened. All I know is that one day I was getting needles and supplies for KB, and then she called me, and and she was like, "Hey, Mama, I don't know what your capacity is or whatever, but like I ran out of stuff." And I'm like, "How? Like, how did you run out of stuff? What you doing with it?" She said, "Mama, I can't use a clean needle, and my friends don't have any." I'm like, "Hey, yeah, you're right. You right." And I said, so then I asked the dumbest thing. Let me tell you how dumb I am. I said, "Well, Kaylin, where's their mamas and daddies?" And she said, this is exactly what she said. Y'all, please forgive me. I'm gonna say a little bitty cuss word right here. She said, "Bitch, you are their mama. Tag." She said, "You're all they've got." I said, "Oh my God, no, not today." It started out with Kaylin, and it started out with Kaylin, Kaylin Brooks. It started out with KB, then it was KB and her homies, and then it was KB and her homies and their homies. And then it was, I'm out in town trying to get some groceries at Publix, and it's, "Hey, are you KB's mama?" "No, I'm a lady trying to buy some bread." "Yeah, what do you want?" Yes, what do you need, honey? What?
Yeah.
7 years. 7 years. We formalized 229 SLA. I formalized it in 2020. So this is my 7th year.
And what kind of services do you offer? Can you just share a little bit about the work that you do?
So it's 100% mobile. We go to the people. We go into the community. We have stops in each community. Our town's controlled by gangs. We've got four major gangs in our town. Our town's divided into quads. Each quad's controlled by a gang. So we go into each quad and take the people the things that they have told us that they need to stay healthy and alive. So we do safe injection, safe smoking, safe snorting, safe sex, safer, all that, safer, yeah, the ER and all that. Safer sex. I do on-site HIV and Hep C testing with immediate linkage to care. I always have a male and female detox bed available. If anybody walks up and says, "Mom, I'm tired," get in the Jeep. Let's go. Let's go. I got you.
Can I press you on that point just for a second? Because so often when people talk about harm reduction, they talk about it like it's the opposite of abstinence or like it's the opposite of recovery. And yet what we find is that for many people, harm reduction becomes kind of a pathway into recovery. They start with harm reduction, and then sometimes that's their pathway. Do you see that happening in your work too? I mean, you talk about connecting people to detox. When they initially start interacting with you, maybe their goal isn't detox at all, but I imagine as a consequence of that relationship that you develop with them, that becomes fertile ground on which they decide to make a different kind of change.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're coming to us, you're coming to the team, and you're saying, "I need needles, I need crack pipes, I need meth bowls, I need condoms, I need whatever, I need an HIV test." You're coming to the team and you're telling us the business. You're telling us the down and our introduction is down and dirty. Like, I don't even know your name, but I know you do sex work. I know you inject drugs. I'm getting all the goods. You learn that you can trust us. You can trust me. You can trust our team to do for you what you say you need done, to facilitate. Now, and here's the thing, what I've learned, nobody needs our help. Nobody in our town needs our help. What people need is they need access to the resources that are already there, okay? They don't need my help. These are grown adults, fully functioning, capable, beautiful individuals. They don't need my help. They need access to resources that are already there. That's my job. My job is to say, "Oh, you need this? I know who to call. Oh, you need this? I know where you need to go. Oh, you need this, and that lady wouldn't talk to you? Hold my beer." And I go with them, and I'm like, "You, ma'am, are going to shut up and listen to this person tell you what they say they need." What happens is, when you already know the business, when somebody gets tired and they want to do something different, they're going to come to you, they're going to look at you, and they're going to say, "I'm tired." And I'm going to say, "I got you. You ain't got to give me no big revelation. There ain't no big revelation. There ain't no big discussion. There ain't no confessional. I already know." That's all you got. And here's the thing. And here's also the thing. You want to go to treatment? Go. But I'm going to tell you something. If you get to treatment and you find out you wasn't ready and you come back, I better be the first call you make. Because if you hit these streets and overdose and die, because you didn't call me and you had a return to use, I'm going to dig you up and kill you myself. You better call me. Because here's the thing. Recovery, right? Recovery. What is recovery? Recovery is any positive change. Abstinence is not recovery. Abstinence is you're not using drugs. You're abstaining from something. Recovery is you're getting better, whatever better means to you. Recovery is not a destination. Recovery is a journey.
Yes, I love everything that you just said. And I'm also reflecting a little bit because they're just things that I didn't understand 15 years ago. Things that
Right.
I early, it's been I'm so grateful for you not just describing your experiences, but describing your journey and the evolution of your thought and your understanding, because you didn't, like you said, you didn't wake up as a radical middle-aged white woman in rural Georgia doing this work. You got here through really hard-won experience. As somebody put in the chat, the hard-won experience of doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result, and until you finally say maybe it's time that we try something different. I'm putting you on the spot a little bit with this question, but it's something that I'm just it would be interested to hear you reflect on, which is we hear a dirty word a lot in this space as it relates to families, is enabling. And a lot of times when I encounter family members, that's about the full scope and extent of their understanding of a family's role in their loved one's addiction and recovery, is just don't enable, don't enable, don't enable. And so I wonder how, I'm sure you had heard some of those voices before. I wonder how you reconcile that with supporting your daughter.
This is easy. I don't subscribe to the word enabling. I don't know what enabling. I don't I think here's what happens. I think that nobody gives us parents or loved ones or guardians or partners or brothers. Nobody tells us this right here, and I wish somebody told me this earlier. I'm going to tell everybody right here today. You love your people the way it works for you and your people. That's an I don't and if somebody else is like, well, I could never do that. Well, good. They're not your people. I'm glad you could never do that with my brother, with my daughter, with my partner, because they're not your people in your house. So don't worry about that. You have permission to love your person the way you see fit, the way it works for them. And if somebody else says that's enabling, well, then by God, don't do it. If what I'm doing, if you think what I'm doing wouldn't work for you and your family, then don't do what I'm doing. Then don't do it. But here's the thing. The money's not coming out of your pocket. The time's not coming out of your pocket. The energy, the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears is not coming out of you. Shut up. Just go, you know what? Go sweep your porch and let me worry about mine. Nobody, yeah, right. Nobody has the right to tell me how I'm going to love my baby. Nobody has the right to say, oh, you can't do that. You're making her drug use. She's got, okay, here's the thing. When Kaylin was at the worst, all right, folks ask for money, right? When they don't have a job and they don't have money, they ask for money, right? Kaylin would ask me money, and driving me back crazy. I just couldn't stand it. I said, well, here's what I'm going to do, because I'm still her mama and I want to be able to buy her a lipstick or a mascara. I want to be able to do these things. So what am I going to do? I'm going to set an allowance. She can have $100 a month. Now, listen, people out here doing drugs today in these streets, $100 ain't going to take you nowhere. Okay. Just let me let you know. $100 ain't going to do nothing. $100. So that's $25 a week. Now, she didn't know that. But she soon learned that she would call, hey, mama, can I hold $10? Yeah, I got you. All right. Hey, mama, can I hold $20? Yeah, I got you. But at some point, she'd say, hey, mama, and I'm like, baby, I'm sorry, but the money that I had budgeted for you this month, I've already given you. I'm so sorry, but you're going to have to wait till I get paid again. All right, mama, I understand. Okay, so that's what I did. Because what's she going to do with $25? You can get it $5 at a time. You can get all $100 at one time. I don't care. But when that $100 for the month is gone, it's gone. I don't give a damn. Somebody said this to me. They're like, well, she's going to take that $20 and go buy drugs. And I'm like, well, number one, $20 ain't going to buy too much drugs here. Okay, $20 is not going to buy a lot of drugs. I said, but number two, And y'all, this is a little crass, and I'm sorry, but this is just sometimes this is just where we have to be with this thing, and this is where I was at the time. Please forgive me. I said I would rather give my baby $25 than know she had to go suck some man's dick to get it. I would rather give my baby $25. She's got a budget, $100 a month. I would rather give my baby $25 than her have to go exploit herself, for her to have to go do something, rob somebody or take from somebody. I'd rather just give her the $25. What the hell?
You know, there's so much that I love about that, but part of what I love about that is, to someone on the other side who's maybe judgmental of what you're doing, and they're looking at it saying, well, you're just being reckless and you're just letting her run all over you and do whatever you want. And that's not true at all. You've set clearly some very practicable boundaries where you've budgeted, and you've said, like you would with any other child who you love, this is the amount that I can give to support you. And I'm not going to negatively impact my bottom line or the rest of the family beyond that. But that doesn't mean I can't still give and still connect with you in this way.
We give with a cheerful heart, right? I mean, if you believe the Bible, if you believe whatever, you give cheerfully, you give gladly. And once I give you $25, what you do with that $25, you wipe your butt with it. You can set it on fire. Once I give you that $25, what you do with it's between you and the universe. That ain't my $25 no more. I give it to you. If I love you, I give, and I let you decide what you need. Do you need tampons? Do you need deodorant? Do you need food? Do you need dope? I don't know. I don't care. I don't friggin' care. If you are grown and can make up your own mind, well, you're going to give her $25. She's going to buy dope. She's going to buy dope anyway. She's going to buy it anyway. And to get this $25, she's going to have to probably do something that's far worse than doing dope. Right? So I set the boundaries. And I'm firm in my boundaries. Let me tell you something. You know, you've met me, Alex. I am firm in my boundaries. But it is that there's no, KB doesn't ever have to wonder how I'm going to treat her, how I'm going to speak to her, how I'm going to tolerate her speaking to me or not. She knows the answers to the questions before she ever calls me, because I am so consistent. I have to be consistent, and I have to be consistent, not for her. I don't give two rats about her. For me, I have to be consistent. And it's that consistency, those loving boundaries, keeps her coming back. You know how many times I talked to my baby yesterday? I talked to her 3 times yesterday. That's 3 times. Now, she was worrying the hell out of me. But you know what? She's alive to call me and worry me.
And what parent whose child is using drugs like that gets to talk to their child 3 times in a day? I have to say, that's probably a dream for a lot of parents in that circumstance, that their child would reach out and connect with them 3 times in a day.
I'm her go-to person. Now here's the thing. The things that she wanted yesterday, I couldn't do a darn thing about. Couldn't help her. What I could have, but I wasn't going to, because that wasn't within my budget. It wasn't within my wheelhouse. And you know, I support you wanting to do that, but you're gonna have to go make another way on that one now. You know, you let me know if you need some advice on some other hustles or whatever. But I got it. But yeah, I'm not gonna be able to throw in on that one. I'm sorry, baby. And she knew. She knew when she called. Crazy. I guess she hoped I maybe just had a momentary lapse, but she even knew better. She was like, "I know it, Mama. I know it. I know it. I love you. I love you too." What was the question?
Nailed it. You nailed it. In fact, perfect time to transition to a little Q&A, because we've got some good questions from participants in the chat. And so one of the first questions is, do you work in your work with 229 SLA? Do you work with pregnant mothers?
Yes. I do. I do. We do. We partner with another organization called Free Indeed, who really focuses on trafficking, people who are surviving trafficking situations. And she works very heavy. We also have I have a partnership with Emory and Morehouse School of Medicine, with the ECHO program. And we're focusing on pregnant people now, doing a huge study, and got people out in the field. Yes, that's a huge area for us. Yes.
We found it to be a tremendous area of need here in Lexington as well. And then this is a really interesting question. I'm curious to hear your answer. What do elected officials say about your work?
Ooh. So here's what you do. You don't. I can either ask forgiveness or I can ask permission. All right. Remember, I didn't mean to do this. Okay. I'm just a lady that don't want her kid to die. That's it. That was all it was. And then I found out I got all these other kids. So I'm a lady that don't want her kid to die. I started doing the work. Needle exchange became legal here in 2019. The year I started doing the work. I didn't know. I didn't know any of this. All I know is I had a kid. I didn't want her to die. By the time the police chief and the head of the drug unit and the assistant DA and all, by the time all these people realized what I was doing, the numbers weren't lying. Our overdose deaths had dropped exponentially. Our EMS runs to drug-related incidences had dropped exponentially. People presenting to the hospital for soft tissue wounds related to drug use was reducing, because as a registered nurse, I also do wound care. I do on-site wound care within the scope of my practice. And I do telemedicine with a couple of doctors that I have. I'll get them on the horn, on the FaceTime. We'll do whatever. They were like, we don't like her, but we can't do nothing with her because and the police chief will tell me, he's like Blanchard, he said, there's a lot of people in this town that don't like what you do. And he said, but there ain't nobody that's ever tried to do anything like what you're doing. They support me. They leave me alone. I leave them alone. I don't mess with them. They don't mess with me. I don't, because my relationship with the people that I get to love on, that invite me into their lives and into their communities, is so sacred, that I respect our law enforcement for who they are and what they have to do. Don't come getting none of it on me. You stay over there, because I've got to have this relationship with these people, and they respect that. They respect that totally.
You're awesome, Jessie. If you're willing, would you stick around for a second? We're going to transition to Shelley for a second, but we're going to bring you back for Q&A in just a few minutes. Okay.
I'll be right here.
Thank you, Jessie. Okay. It's probably no subtle way to segue here to bring Shelley into the mix, but let me just start by sharing this really quickly. We have a somewhat similar experience. It's different in some respects. Any of you who know my family or our story, you know that I come from a wonderful, incredible family. I come from a really privileged background. I became addicted to opioids when I was 18 years old. And our family went through, we went through a lot. So before we jump in, let me just start by confessing to everybody on the webinar, this is my mom and I love my mom. All right, let's start there. Mom, when did you first know that there was a problem related to my addiction, drug use?
You came and told me. We were at Dad's office, moving everything around, redecorating, and you asked me to come out and talk to you in the car, and we sat in the parking lot, and you said, ever since I had my wisdom teeth out, I've been using opioids and I can't stop.
That came as a surprise?
Huge surprise. I had known something was wrong over time. I just didn't know what it was for a very long time. I watched you pull away from me. I watched you just fall apart incrementally. Your love of learning, in the beginning, you'd call me and tell me what you learned that day at school, and that stopped. And then the books we would share between us, those stopped, as I knew something was taking the place of who you were at the core.
Mhm. And so what did you try to do? How did you try to solve the problem and get me to stop?
Well, I want to say this first. The whole time I'm listening to Jessie, for one thing, now I'm really upset. It was very emotional and very moving, and I can really relate. I also want to say that to me, Jessie is like the strong man and the ringmaster in the circus, and I'm one of the tiny clowns that's stuffed into a little bitty car that people have pulled me out of. So it is a very different story. What was your question?
That's great. No, that was the answer, regardless of the question. But the question is, what are some of the things, like any parent who is not an expert in addiction, you try some things in the beginning. What are some of the things we tried at the very beginning with our limited understanding?
I tried a little emotional abuse. That didn't feel very good. So I would scream at you. Much like Jessie, I felt like you were doing it to me sometimes. So that could get me very angry. But I also felt like you didn't know how much you were hurting people around you. So if you knew how much pain I was in, you would stop, because I had never been exposed to anything about addiction. I hadn't yet had time to read books. So yeah, screaming. I don't think it happened a lot, but it was a way. I did start reading books about it. I tried to get educated. I am an accountant by trade and did public accounting, taxes. I'm very much a black and white person. Jessie lives in color and I love it. It's just I'm the dead opposite. There was a way to do this right, so I was going to read until I figured out what it was. I started going to Al-Anon, and I really, this will be a surprise, really loved the equations. So when they would say, well, your loved one has to do 51% of the work, I would actually in my mind try to calculate what was 51%.
Mhm.
So if when you were at the Hope Center here in Lexington and homeless, and you asked for a sweatshirt, it was July and you'd only been homeless for like 2 hours this go around. I'm like, can I take him a sweatshirt? Oh, yes. He went, so I can take him a sweatshirt. And then you called later and wanted something else. And I know that day we made 3 visits to the Hope Center. So we weren't very good at uh, we weren't very good at not enabling, but that was the background that I was coming from.
Okay, so you're a person who's really looking for, I mean, like any family member, you're swimming in this lack of understanding, this uncertainty, and you're looking for something to anchor to. You're looking for someone to give you like a path forward. And when you found Al-Anon, you had something of, here's a structure, here's a framework you can work within. So what was that like for you?
My fear was overwhelming. It's a little bit who I am as a person, and it made me lose my ability to think and process. So having something I could lock onto and say, ah, these are the things that I need to do. I can remember one time when you were homeless, you asked me, if I asked you for a sandwich, would you give me one? And I said no. So I have a very different way that I was approaching this, because it's what I was reading and it's what I was being told. It's what I knew at that time.
Were you aware of anything else other than that approach in Al-Anon?
Therapy. Um, I my primary family had gone through therapy, and I was a big believer. It's science, it's a way. And we did go to therapy as a family. You went individually, I went individually. We were doing some things like that, really working hard and trying to do everything that was suggested for us to do. In therapy, one time, somebody gave me a brochure that said that there was such thing as Vivitrol, but it wasn't really recommended. And so I didn't know anything about medication. Certainly didn't know anything about harm reduction. Just living in fear and trying to cope.
Yeah. And yeah. And trying to cope. So as you listen to Jessie relate some of her experience, did anything stick out to you as a particular difference between her experience with KB and our experience?
A similarity. I loved you the whole time. There was such a heartfelt love, and I respected you the whole time. I really did. You were never mean to me, angry with me. Always the same personality, just with these behaviors that I couldn't understand. Differences between Jessie and me. Again, it's the fear factor. It overrode a lot of my emotions. That formulaic way that my brain works, it's logic, it's a process. I was told if I relinquished my kind of rights to you, that someone else could handle you better. And so when you went to the Salvation Army and somebody told me you shouldn't be taking calls from them anymore, I said, only call this other person. And so when you were suicidal, when you wished you were dead, and they called him and said, he's suicidal. And he said to you, what do you want? A rope, a knife, a gun? Because, and I knew he said that. So for me, I really just gave up on some things, and my fear and self-preservation. So I'm just really feeling like a tiny clown right now.
Wow.
Coming out of the car. Go Jessie, what a lot of power. Yeah, I was trying the things that were being told to me and reading on the side and trying to learn. You finally went to the homeless shelter at Salvation Army and stayed 6 months. And at that time, I was becoming stronger and learning more. And I think shortly after that, I probably met Amanda.
So along those lines, well, first, let me say this, because you're being so, just like Jessie is, you all are both being really vulnerable. It's one thing to just share your experience. It's another thing to be asked to specifically talk about things you feel like you should have done better or differently. And so I appreciate that, first of all. And second of all, I just want to go back to that relinquishing control for a second. So, as a CPA who is all about control, you've spent the first 2 or 3 years of this addiction experience in our family trying to control everything. If I get the right treatment, if I get the right therapist, if we get the right order of events, whatever it is, and that's not working. And so part of what's really valuable that Al-Anon provided for you was sort of like permission to give up control. That was really meaningful for you at that time.
It really was. And honestly, it saved me. I was unraveling. And so to have a dogma to latch onto was really important and really helpful. It's just I'm black and white. And so I took it all the way to this degree that I had to follow those rules.
Well, and that's why I asked if you were aware of anything other than the Al-Anon dogma at the time, because if you're not, then you have to take it as dogma.
Yes.
Because it's not like this is a way that I can support my loved one. It's the way I must support my loved one. Okay, so to that end, when then did you first get introduced to, what's your first encounter with harm reduction? Do you remember?
Yeah. And I have no idea why. Again, little clown being pulled out of the car there was a heroin group here in Lexington, and I joined that group just as a mom to learn. I have a story that's important that people understand, because I just wanted awareness in the community. And through that, I learned about a harm reduction conference, and I sit through the conference, and I'm a little like, wow. The other thing I didn't say too is that this is 2013. I heard on the Today Show that you could get naloxone and that it could reverse an overdose. And so I started trying to get it. I went to my family practice doctor, and he had no idea how to write a prescription for it. It just hadn't happened. And then I went to, he did give me a prescription. I went to a pharmacy, the pharmacy that gave us all the opioids, and they wouldn't fill it unless I bought an entire case of naloxone. And so I finally went to UK pharmacy, and they filled it for me. And at that time, there was no language around harm reduction. So I remember you and I came back from a trip. It was just after one of your treatments and a stay. And I thought, oh, this bonding time will be great. You just got out of treatment the day before. This is your reward for having stayed the full time this time. And we came home, and that box was on the counter, and it was in your name, because at that time I couldn't get a prescription. I had to get a prescription in your name. And you were so hurt by that vote of no confidence, because I thought you were going to relapse. And I didn't have the words to say, I love you, and I just want you to have this. I want me to have it. I want it in your cabinet. So that's where I had kind of come through. And now I'm at this harm reduction conference. And that's when Amanda comes up to me and introduces herself. And she said, what's been your experience? I don't know. We're talking. And I'm like, I couldn't get naloxone. And she said, oh, well, we should do that. Like, we could work together and we could do that. And I'm like, no, I'm just here to, like, tell people about what I've been through.
Right.
So that was my first encounter. And it was my first time I got pulled into Amanda's vortex of all the ideas and things that would become voices of hope eventually.
Well, it's been very cool for me. I think just like Jessie described her journey with harm reduction, her evolution of understanding, my experience is that's how most people come to it, is that it takes time and it's an evolution. And what was cool for me is that I felt like I was smack dab in the middle of Amanda, who was had a more progressive understanding. And then I got dragged along, and then I got to see you get dragged along. And so it's been cool to see that it takes time and it's a process. So now I can imagine that guidance or advice or suggestions you might give to families in this position is very different than you might have 10 or 15 years ago. So what advice now do you give to a family member who comes to you and says, my son is addicted to opioids, and what do we do?
Use every tool in the toolkit. Whatever is going to bring them to where they need to be. And I love what Jessie said, ask them what they need, because you actually were an expert the whole time, and I never took advantage of that. I absolutely want to see that there is 12-step programs, because that helps so many people. It helped me so much. I need that to be in the world. I need there to be smart recovery, so that we have a science-backed way that is crosstalk, that allows another avenue to share our experiences and support each other, to learn cognitive behavioral therapy, to learn motivational interviewing. All of these things are so important so that we can figure out how to help.
Yeah.
So, and harm reduction is one of those that, again, I'm the clown that got pulled out of the car. It just keeps coming into my mind. I'm like, no, this feels counterintuitive. If I give my son something that helps him to use safely, I am allowing him to use. And it took me a long time. Actually, I heard a story one time. I think I was at the RX Summit, and I heard a mother say, I gave my son naloxone and I let him have this conversation with me. And I said, I love him. And that was the turning point in him being able to talk to me. And I thought, wow, okay, I see something I didn't see before. So yeah, it's a huge way. I'm all in.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. If it's okay now, Jessie, we'll bring you back in and we'll do a little Q&A from participants. And one of the questions that, and so I'll just throw this out there and either of you can take it however you like. What if you can't support someone financially at all? Is it enough if all you can do to support your person emotionally?
I think so. I mean, first off, Shelley, I love you. You know, we do the best we can with what we have and know at the time. I was a lot like you in the beginning, you know. I think me being a nurse was what gave me the ability to be able to do that shift too, because I was able to take off my mama hat. If I hadn't had a nurse hat to put on or a public, then I don't know that I would have been able to make that shift. We do the best we can with what we got at the time, but at the end, Alex knew you loved him. And I mean, gosh, that's what so many people don't have and what they don't know. And I think we can give money and resources and but man, that love, I think, can love be enough? I think, yeah, if that's all you can do and you're real firm about that and you don't we have to be careful to not use things like money as a bargaining tool or as leverage or as a conditional type thing. If you've got the money, if you can do that, that's okay with you, then you do it, and you do it just because and not with any stipulations or conditions.
Yeah, Jessie, you said something that I love that actually my mom reminds me about on occasion, which is, yeah, you don't know what you don't know, and you do the best you can with what you have. And so in in harm reduction, we talk about meeting people where they are when we're talking about people who use drugs, but it's also a good approach to working with people who are still learning about harm reduction. You have to meet them where they are. So I was thinking about that even as you talk about elected officials or people in positions of power. On one hand, it's easy to get frustrated and feel like there's ignorance there. But on the other, I think it's always helpful to remind ourselves that just like me, just like Jessie, just like Shelley, all of us started in that place. And it was because of the benefit of those experiences that our opinions changed.
Alex, if I can pop in, I want to say too, in terms of if you don't have money to give, the love that our recovery coaches have for the people that they work with who have been where they are, that is enough. They're changing lives. They are doing this by asking them what they need, by connecting them with resources in the community. Families can do that same thing. If they're able to think more clearly than the person that they're working with or that they love, they can come up with ideas and workarounds. It is coaching. I think we just didn't know as mothers we were being recovery coaches.
I love that. And it makes me think of something that I really love that Jessie said earlier, which is, oh shoot, how did you say it, Jessie? Oh no, I've lost it. I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to come up with it, but yeah, that we don't help people, we give them access. I liked the way you said that. I thought that's brilliant because it's like sometimes it sounds so infantilizing when we're talking about these grown adults who have incredible capabilities and we act like they need to be handheld. And really what they need is access. They just need to be able to overcome some of these barriers and meet some needs.
That's it. That's it. That's it right there. My shirt, the shirt that I got on today, I didn't even realize it says safer, not savior.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. These people don't, these people, our people, us, me and you and Shelley and KB and all the people, we don't need saving. We don't need your help. We need the access to the resources that are already in our community that for some reason we can't get. Yeah. That's it. Can I tell a super quick story?
Please.
Participant in our program, black guy, probably late 30s, early 40s. He came up every week, get crack pipes, blah, blah, whatever, all that kind of stuff. He came up one day, he was wearing some tennis shoes. He was wearing some Nikes, and they were like this bright, like this like neon orange color. And I said, woo. I said, see you coming for a mile. I said, I love those though. He said, yeah, this ain't what I need, JB. I said, what you need? He said, I need some boots. I said, tell me about it. Tell me about these boots. He said, I got offered a job. I said, oh, who? He said, I got offered a job. He said, boss man won't let me work without some steel-toe, composite-toed boots. I said, what size shoe you wear? Size 11. Well, what size shoe do you think my partner wears? An 11. My partner works on base. So twice a year, they get like a stipend. They have to go buy, they're mandated to go buy new steel-toed or composite-toed boots twice a year. You can't, they don't wear those shoes out. They ride around on golf carts, checking water mains. My God. I called him up and I said, yo, I need some boots. He's like, okay. He's like, there's like 10, 12 pair in the closet. So one of my volunteers, I gave her my keys. I'm like, go to my house, call this number, call him and ask him which boots to get. She runs all the way out of my house. She gets the boots she brings the boots back. The guy's like, oh my God, are you kidding? Are you kidding? I'm like, no, you got your boots. He's so happy. He hugs. He leaves. I don't see him the next week. I don't see him. So he kind of goes out of my mind, right? I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months later, it's some minutes later, we're at the spot doing the thing, and I hear, hey, I look up. Tell me why I'm seeing this joker in his company truck, buying his crew lunch. He got boots, never picked up another crack pipe, got his job, got his housing, got back with his partner and their 2 kids. And the man is to this day, out there killing it. He needed boots. He didn't need he didn't need saving. But you know what? But here's the thing, had he not been needing a crack pipe, and this is how my crazy mind works. Right. Had he not been smoking crack, I wouldn't have known he needed boots.
It's because of the relationship.
It was the relationship. That's all it is. It's just the relationship that we're forming with people. Who cares what it's over or what it's around? We don't care.
No, I love that. I love that. I love your shirt. I love your attitude. It reminds me at Voices, as a part of our peer training, we say we don't treat our participants as recipients of our services. We treat them as resources. That's part of what Recovery Capital teaches, is we know that inside of them, they've got these resources and capabilities, and they're incredibly able people, and they just need that little bit of access. So, Shelley, my sweet mother, Jessie, my other mother, thank you all so much for taking the time. I mean, seriously, I know it's always a vulnerable thing to talk about your experience, but there's something uniquely hard about being asked about things you might regret or you might see differently today. So that's really, really meaningful. I think clearly you can see from the chat that this has really had an impact on a lot of folks. So thank you. I hope a family member heard something that they needed to hear today, and thank you everybody for joining us. If you're, Brooke, am I stealing your thunder here? CEs, I'll let you talk about CEs. Sorry, I'll let you wrap it up.
I mean, Alex, you're doing a great job. Thank you. And thank you so much. Alex and Jessie and Shelley. And I'm going to put the CE link in the chat one more time. So please grab that if you want continuing education certificate. I've been a mess over here. I was so captivated. I forgot I'm supposed to talk again at the end of this. This was such a powerful message of harm reduction as radical love. I'm going to tell more people to go sweep their porch as a result of this conversation. Just so impressed and like love the vulnerability of just in this conversation, the vulnerability in the chat. So many people were sharing. And Jessie, just like that moment of like accountability and honesty you shared where you looked in the mirror and went, wow, what I'm doing is not working. And like that self-reflection is so powerful. And what's the anti-dead formula? Wow, because dead people can't do anything and dead people can't recover. This was incredible. Thank you all so much for being here. And yeah, you have the right to love your person the way you see fit. Gosh, so many quotes I'll be stealing from this. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Mike.
having us.